And welcome to America Talks Live. I'm Bill Tucker filling in for Steve, who is out today. 1-877-NEWSMAX is the number to call if you want to join in on the conversation. Well, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is a retired lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. He is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy and author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim patriot's fight to save his faith. Dr. Jasser, great to have you with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's
great to be with you, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah, you picked up a big fight there, my friend. You have a hard time, and gentlemen like Khalid Massoud do not make it any easier for you. You talk about a battle for the soul of the faith. Do you think it's a battle you can win? I just want to start there simply because we've had yet another incident for which ISIS stands up tall and proud and takes credit for, coming a year after two of their own blew themselves up in the Brussels airport. It does seem to me like maybe you are fighting a futile battle. Is that not true?
Well, I don't believe so. You know, as a physician, I'm always cup half full. I think Islam is in that time in history. It's a little over 1,400 years old. It is going through what I believe this cataclysmic global battle within to separate mosque and state, to defeat the theocrats, no different than what created the free countries in the West that defeated theocracy in the 16th, 17th, 18th century that led to the American Revolution. Now, this is going to be a long war. It's generational. But I have to tell you, we haven't even started it. To hear Theresa May say that, well, he had history of violent extremism. It wasn't just his violence, it was his Islamism, his theocratic mindset, I bet you. I mean, we're going to find out more details, but every time we get one of these, not lone wolves, but known wolves, we're ignoring the fact that there's an underbelly of a non-violent ideology that is a conveyor belt towards their radicalization. And I, as a Muslim that recognizes we have a major problem, we have a cancer within, we need to start treating it. We haven't even diagnosed it yet, let alone get to the treatment.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I understand. I recognize that there's some kind of misplaced, I would call it misplaced good intent by people who try to stay away from branding these terrorists Islamic terrorists, but they're not doing anybody any favor. And it's interesting to hear you say that. And your words echo another frequent guest on NewsmaxTV, Sultan, who also is Islamic and a Muslim, and who actually has echoed your very words that until we recognize this cancer, we're not going to be able to grab it and take hold of it. Do you agree with me? You clearly must, because it's time to identify and call things what they are, and there's still this giant reluctance to name the enemy and call it for what it is.
Yeah, I think, you know, we need a 12-step program, and we're still stuck in the first step, which is denial. And I think the more the West, the non-Muslim world, sort of becomes complicit and enables that denial, you're going to actually create more fear of Muslims, more fear of Islam, because they're going to view all of us as one in a bigotry of low expectations that somehow we're all sort of condemned into this medieval interpretation, or this apologetic that doesn't allow any type of critical thinking that somehow there are Muslims that, yes, might be with us. And that's what our Muslim reform movement is all about. We have a movement of courageous, leadership-based Muslims that believe that we want to confront the ideologies of all of these Muslim-majority countries. We are fighting the establishment within our faith, and the establishment is in denial. So I hope at some point we finally start to figure out that in order to start to treat the disease, we have to recognize Sharia supremacy, Sharia law as it exists in these organizations and states as the root cause of the reason these individuals want to attack our parliaments, our governments, our military facilities, and who we are as free nations.
What do you make of the London mayor's statement that terrorism is just part of big city living and we should expect it to happen?
I can't tell you how dangerous that kind of dismissal is, because this is the tip of the iceberg. If you want to look at it as a crime problem and put it into an absurd moral equivalency of drug violence and other gang issues in big cities, she's missing the big picture. ISIS lit the fuse of what they're doing in Syria, in Iraq. They're fighting another evil, which is Assadism, and the military secular dictatorship of a Syrian Shia jihadism. So you have jihadists fighting against one another in a regional battle there that is globally having collateral damage against the West. They view the biggest threat to them as Western secular states. And actually, Muslims like myself, if we are marginalized, that feeds into allowing ISIS to continue to hold the mantle of Islam, allowing the Saudis to hold the mantle of Islam. So if she can't get the picture right and focus her lens on what the real problem is, she's going to continue to be part of a continued compromise of national security for her country.
Yeah, you make a very important distinction, and I kind of want to stay on it for 1 second, because there's a major difference between someone who commits a burglary, who get drug problems, who, you know, we can go through a whole bunch of different things, but there's a big difference between those types of crimes and this type of fundamental belief that violence is necessary to lead to the establishment of a theocratic state, which is, you've been talking about it, but I don't think people understand that, and I bless you there.
Yes, I think that, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I think that what people miss is that most of these Islamic states, even these allies, the so-called allies of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, you know, countries that are Islamic republics, they might be with us in the battle against Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other Islamic theocratic movements that are militant grassroots viral movements, but their countries are cauldrons of ideologies that are radicalizing Muslims all over the planet. And we in the free world need to recognize that the only solution to Muslim theocracy is Muslims that believe in the secular nation state, national patriotism based in American, British state, you know, loyalty. That's the only antidote to radical theocratic political Islam.
Yeah, and that's what the problem is that we're looking at in the Middle East right now in terms of the Syrian refugees and where they go and where they don't go. I've been told that Saudi Arabia has refused to accept refugees from Syria. I'm guessing in large part it has to do with what you just described, this notion of this cauldron of ideologies for which maybe some of these would not fit within the country, so it would in fact be disruptive to their own Muslim societies, as a matter of fact. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think the establishment in those countries are wedded to the belief that the state identity is Islamic. The only way to defeat jihadism, you know, I as an American wanted to serve in the military because I felt that my obligation, the only thing I'd ever want to die for is America's Constitution and who we are. Mm-hmm. My identity is American first. Jihad is based on the Muslim identity that they have loyalty globally to the Islamic State and the Caliphate. So the only way to defeat the moral obligation of jihad is for us Muslims to defeat this concept of the Islamic State identity, which is why our American Islamic Forum, the mission statement is not to counter terrorism, but to counter the Islamic State identity and to separate mosque and state. And until the West and the leaders of the free world start to realize that we need to advance the ideas of freedom and liberty and the nation states of secular freedom, if you will, we are never going to win this battle for the hearts and minds of Muslims. I mean, this guy, Khalid Massoud, was born in Britain. The Imam Awlakis of the world are born in the West. They're radicalized here by an ideology that is anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, anti-Western. And until we get Muslims that are for freedom and liberty to lead this fight, it's going to continue to be a whack-a-mole program.
Yeah, it is a fierce fight. I'm glad to have you with us in that fight. Thank you so much, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser.